After teasing all yesterday that he was going to be out on the streets of D.C. patrolling with law enforcement, President Trump did this. He visited troops at a command center in Southeast.
He suggested earlier in the day that he would be going out with D.C. police and military members to, quote, do a job.
Yeah.
His motorcade left the White House about 5 Thursday to visit the center in Anacostia. Then he returned to the White House just after 6 p.
Yeah, we're going to have team coverage of that visit. Drew Petromore is going to join us in a little bit with sort of a nuts and bolts look at things that went down yesterday, what's going on in the city. NewsNation's Joe Khalil was actually on the ground at that visit, and Alice Gangitano was actually inside. So we'll have it all for you on this Friday morning.
So for more, we are joined by Drew Petromore. He has his eyes and ears on everything happening in and around Washington, and that's why we like to talk to him as much as we can.
So as you see there, look, the president drawing a big crowd. He was there with Pam Bondi, Department of Interior, Doug Burgum, as well as Janine Pirro, sort of thanking all the federal law enforcement agents who are in and around the district right now.
You know, it's not what we thought we were going to get. You know, we thought we were going to see Trump kind of out there in tactical gear patrolling the streets, which would have been a sight to see. This was definitely not that. He wanted, you know, I think that would probably be a pretty big security risk to have him out there.
For sure.
So they chose a more secure location. He was able to speak to the troops, talk a lot about what they had done so far and about how, you know, he thinks the city has been completely remade. It's a completely different feel to the city, which I think those of us that live there might dispute that a little bit. I mean, it is the same city as it was before. They have some numbers that they've been putting out. You know, there have been 630 arrests that they have made. It's a little bit hard to decipher, though, exactly which arrests are solely because of the new law enforcement presence in the district, because the feds and the local police are both putting out numbers that include arrests made in tandem. So it's not exactly clear how many of the arrests are just because of what has happened. He talked a lot about beautifying the city, though. So, you know, we're going to, I think, see some new grass. He talked about they're going to be putting in they're going to be sodding, and we're going to have the best sprinkler systems money can buy.
Yeah, he talked a lot about grass yesterday.
Well, you know, it is interesting because that's something that Mayor Muriel Bowser has talked about before, that when they're coming up, if they're beautifying the city, hey, make sure that you beautify the parks that are falling into disrepair that Park Service is in control of. So there's that.
Well, the fountains at Meridian Hill Park haven't been working the entire time I've lived in that neighborhood for the past 4.5 years. So if they did fix that, that would be a major improvement. You know, look, I think that the law enforcement presence here, when you look at it, a lot of what you see around the city is they're doing checkpoints. It's a lot of this quality of life stuff, which I think is a real issue in the city, you know, trying to make sure that the city feels like there's more order, maybe. You know, he's talked about yesterday removing graffiti. There's been an effort to remove homeless encampments. You know, when you do hear from residents in the most high crime areas of the city that they feel like there hasn't been a huge increase in law enforcement present there. So the most visible scenes that we've seen are around the high tourist areas, the high traffic areas, the mall, the nightlife area around 14th Street. From my perspective, I live in Northwest, the biggest impact I've seen over the last 2 weeks is the amount of protests. You know, there's a lot of more protests in my neighborhood of people gathering that don't like what's actually.
So we'll soon sort of be halfway through this 30-day emergency period, and the president is taking a bit of a victory lap. I think we have his post from Truth Social about D.C. safety, and he says, look, as bad as it sounds to say, there were no murders this week for the first time in memory. Mayor Muriel Bowser must immediately stop giving false and highly inaccurate crime figures, or bad things will happen, including a complete and total federal takeover of the city. So he continues to talk about wanting to do more here, possibly going to Congress to get an extension of this 30-day emergency. And he seems to have some support among some of the folks who are on his political side of the aisle. Let's play the soundbite from former Vice President Mike Pence about how maybe this could be a model for other cities.
With regard to other cities, I think the American people would be grateful to see the president provide the resources to state and local law enforcement, and where necessary, as he did in Los Angeles, to be willing to deploy the National Guard to backstop that effort. There's probably no higher priority than ensuring the safety of our families, our communities, and law and order.
The big question now is, how long will this last? And we don't know the answer to that one, do we, Drew?
Well, yeah, and there's this 30-day limit without going to Congress and getting a joint resolution. There's not going to be a joint resolution supported by Democrats in the Senate to keep this federal presence going on. Democrats almost uniformly oppose what is happening here in the district. And when he says this is supported by the American people, I guess it depends on which American people you ask. In big cities, the notion of a federal takeover of their local government is probably not that popular. Now, if you were to say the federal government wants to offer help in fighting crime, people that live in high crime cities, I'm sure would welcome that. But I think it just depends on how it's done, whether or not there's collaboration between locally elected officials and the federal government, or if it's a takeover scenario where it seems like this type of enforcement is being forced on the population.
All right, well, we will see what happens this weekend. Drew, I know we're going to chat with you in the next hour, so thank you very much. Also, we're going to hear more from former Vice President Mike Pence. He had a very long conversation with the Hill's Blake Berman, so stick around for that as well.
Yeah.